Hello and welcome to chapter 12 of Mr. Tiger Betsy and the Blue Moon. Loneliness, said Mr. Tiger, is a terrible thing, and it strikes me, Old Top, that you have been lonely for too long. The Gongalongs need your help as they have never needed it before, and I need your help if my plan is to succeed. We need to turn the moon blue so that we might make Gongalong berry ice cream.
You mean, said Ivan, to make wishes come true?
Yes, said Betsy.
The trouble is, said Ivan, as I said, I would frighten the Gongalongs.
The giant had a point. His beard had grown so very long, his moustache had grown so very wide, and his fingernails had grown so very broad. Something had to be done.
Would you ever consider, my old top, asked Mr. Tiger, coming down from the mountain, going to the barber's and having some new clothes? In short, being spruced up a little.
Ivan the Timid thought about this for a moment and said he would come down, as it was an emergency, but only if the Gongalongs wanted him to. On hearing how lonely he had been and how unloved he felt, it was agreed something must be done. Mr. Tiger told Ivan to wait until he heard their signal and only then to make his way down to the Seashell Cove.
What will that signal be? Said Ivan.
A blast from the ship's horn, came a purr of a reply, and with that Mr. Tiger and Betsy disappeared into the mist as fast as tiger paws can go. It was so hot by the time they reached the bottom of the mountain that Betsy had to take off the coat she had been given by Mr. Tiger. She wanted to ask if she could keep it, but thought better of it. Mr. Tiger had a glint in his eyes, and from his paw she caught the flash of a gold claw. His mind was not on coats. Betsy felt it would be a foolish question. Mr. Tiger gathered the Gongalong people together in the main square. "My dear gutsy Gongalongs," he said, "there is indeed a giant sitting on top of the icy peaks of the mountain. He is big of build, chilly of fingers and toes that have outgrown his shoes. He is lonely of heart and longing to be useful. This, my dear Gongalongs, is a matter of a misunderstanding between a giant and yourselves. Ivan is a friend, not foe." The minute they heard this, all the tailors on the island started snipping and cutting to make a suit big enough for a giant. It had to be patched together because there was not a length of fabric long enough. The cobblers went to work on making comfortable, warm boots, soft enough not to cause any damage to the mountain or to the Gongalongs. When everything was ready, Mr. Tiger let out 3 hoots on the ship's foghorn. Ivan heard the sound through the mist, and, gathering his courage, he made his way down the mountain. To his surprise, the Gongalongs were waiting for him. The barbers and the manicurists asked Ivan to sit on a rock with his feet in the sea. The fish gave him a pedicure, while the barbers, balancing on ladders, cut his hair. It was a bit like harvesting day. They shaved off his whiskers, they trimmed his beard, and his nails were cut. Then they brought him more fresh kippers, his favourite, which are very hard to come by on a mountain. Finally, he got dressed in his brand new clothes. First, he put on a vest that the fishermen had made from their nets, then a shirt of cosy brushed cotton, pants and trousers which were held up by braces. Next, a waistcoat with many pockets, then a jacket with even more pockets, as a jacket without pockets is pointless. Then socks that had been specially knitted for him by sheep. Last, he put on his comfy boots. He caught a glimpse of his reflection in the water and was so delighted with the way he looked that he posed for a picture. "Smile," said Betsy, and he did, because for the first time in a long time he didn't feel so lonely, and he knew that he was loved. Chapter 13. Now that Ivan the Timid was no longer seated on top of the mountain, the snow-capped peaks could easily be seen from anywhere on the island. It was agreed that the cause of the mist must have been the giant's breath. For since he had come down, the sky had cleared. Mr. Tiger could not have been more delighted with the outcome. From the ship he could easily take the measurements he needed between the mountain and the moon. These he wrote down in his notebook. Then he would take out his pocket watch and study it carefully before saying, "Perfect." Betsy often wondered what kind of pocket watch it might be, especially as there were no numbers on the face to tell the time. Only the occasional picture, which appeared in a heartbeat and vanished in a second. Betsy asked Mr. Tiger if he would explain its workings. He just said, "Cats have their secrets and their whiskers, their tails and their tails." Then one morning after breakfast, a picture popped up on his pocket watch of such importance he called everyone together in his cabin. He tapped his silver-topped cane and said, "My gutsy gong-alongs, gather round. Tomorrow, by my reckoning, there will be a full moon." This is the moment we have all waited for. It is our only chance of sometime never to turn a silver moon blue. Betsy wasn't alone in wondering how such an impossible thing could be done. Dad and Mum were also confused. Neither Mr. Tiger nor the acrobats could say any more on the matter, apart from that tomorrow was going to be the night of all nights. The acrobats had been busy for days, taking the things needed from the ship, such as ladders, wires, and ropes, to a camp they had set up on the top of the mountain. It had not been easy work on account of Princess Olaf. She stood on a stool, glaring over her fence. The minute she saw a gong-along, she would shout, "I built this fence to keep you out! This is my island, mine, not yours, never yours, just mine." No one took any notice of her. She began to throw rocks to frighten the gong-alongs away, and although the acrobats were quick on their feet, it did nonetheless make their task that bit harder. It puzzled Betsy greatly as to why one sister was so different from the other. She went and asked the toad if she knew the answer to this troublesome question. The toad, who had been too frightened to leave the ship in fear and trembling of Princess Olaf, agreed it was a puzzle. "Do you know the answer?" asked Betsy. The toad said, "I think it's a case of too many yeses." "What does that mean?" asked Betsy. "Simple, when you think about it," said the toad. "A yes means yes, and a no means no." "Sorry?" said Betsy. "I still don't understand." "That's because you are not spoilt," said the toad. "You see, all the yeses in the world makes no one happy, not even a princess. It is the word no that makes the word yes all the more special. Because without a no, you never realise how lucky you truly are." "I hadn't thought of it like that," replied Betsy. "Well, why should you?" asked the toad. "I'm the one who's been sitting on a slimy stone for years with nothing to do but think. I could do with a tub of ice cream to settle my nerves." "Your dad isn't by any chance making ice cream today?" "No," said Betsy. "We're waiting for the moon." "Of course," said the toad. "Silly me. It really doesn't matter."